She cut the rope and took off in my boat. Didn't ask, didn't leave a note, just straight up stole it like she owned the river. And the best part? She had no idea what she was doing or who she was messing with. Yeah, buckle up. Living by the river had always been a dream of mine. Not just any river either. This place is calm, tucked away, the kind of spot where the mornings are cool and quiet, and the air smells like trees and water. After years of guiding wilderness tours and saving every penny, I finally bought a small house right on the bank. Nothing fancy, but it came with a private dock. And for me, that dock was everything. Because right there, resting like a prize on display, was my boat. A sleek, custom-built speedboat loaded with gear, tuned perfectly for river runs and overnight fishing trips. It was my pride and joy. I washed that thing more than I washed my truck. I had it locked, covered, and tracked. You don't put that much time into something without protecting it. Now, you'd think that'd be the end of the story, right? Me, quiet guy on the edge of town, enjoying his boat and his peaceful weekends? Nope. Because peace has a way of attracting chaos. In this case, a chaos named Marcy. She moved in next door about 3 months after I settled in. And from day one, she was on a mission. At first, it was subtle. Comments like, "Oh, that boat doesn't really match the aesthetic of our little community," or, "Isn't it unfair that some people get docks and others don't?" And I'm standing there thinking, what? This is private property. I bought this place with my money, my dock, my boat. What's it got to do with you? I brushed it off. I mean, you can't argue with people like that. They feed off the attention. So I smiled, nodded, and walked away every time. Figured she'd get bored eventually. She didn't. She got bolder. Started hovering near the dock when I was working on the boat, asking questions that sounded innocent but weren't. So, like, could someone else use the boat if you're not around? Or, what would happen if, say, the rope came loose and the boat drifted off? I still didn't take it seriously. Maybe I should have. Because one quiet Sunday morning, I grabbed my coffee, walked down the path to the dock, and the boat was gone. Just gone. At first, I thought maybe a friend was playing a prank. Then I saw the cut rope. Clean slice. Like someone took scissors to it and floated off without a second thought. And that's when my neighbor from across the road called out, "Hey, thought you let that lady next door borrow it. Saw her heading upriver in it earlier." That's when I knew I wasn't dealing with some passive-aggressive HOA queen anymore. I was dealing with a full-blown lunatic, and I was going to make sure she never forgot what she did or who she stole from. I stood there on the dock for a solid minute, just staring. You ever have one of those moments where your brain refuses to process what's right in front of you? That was me. My coffee went cold in my hand. The rope was clean cut, my boat was gone, and someone, that woman, had actually taken it. I'll be honest, my first instinct wasn't even rage. It was disbelief. Like, no way someone would be dumb enough to steal a boat from the guy who lives on the property, who clearly owns it, and, oh yeah, uses it for work. But disbelief didn't last long. The second wave hit fast. Full-blown fury. Not the kind you scream out loud. The quiet kind. The heavy kind that makes your hands shake while your mind runs through every single thing that could go wrong. Not just with the boat, but with her. She didn't know how to operate it. Hell, based on the way she acted, I doubt she could even read the dashboard. If she took it out onto the river, into the main current, she was in serious danger. Not that I was worried for her safety exactly. I mean, yeah, I don't want anyone getting hurt. But if she crashed it, or if something went wrong, guess who's liable? Me. Because it's my boat, registered under my name. I pulled out my phone and opened the tracking app. I don't mess around. I had a GPS tracker installed the day I bought the damn thing. Took a second to load, and then there it was. Dot on the screen, drifting farther and farther downriver. And not in a straight line either. She was weaving, looping. The signal looked like a toddler drawing with a crayon. That's when I knew she wasn't borrowing anything. She had no clue what she was doing. I didn't waste another second. I jumped in my truck, backed out so fast I nearly took out my mailbox, and headed straight to the launch station. Luckily, my crew was in that morning. I'd worked with them for years. Good guys, level-headed, and definitely not fans of the HOA crowd. When I told them what happened, they howled. Wait, wait, wait. Are you telling me Marcy from next door jacked your boat? Yup. And now she's drifting solo down the Greenville River, like some kind of outlaw cruise? I just nodded, gritting my teeth. I'm in, one of them said. Let's go get your damn boat back. So we prepped the patrol boat, fired her up, and set out. I locked in the GPS signal, and off we went, cutting through the water, engines humming, sun already high in the sky. And as we got closer, we started hearing it. Her. She was on an open radio frequency, screaming for help, not calling 911, not even trying to steer. Just full panic. Somebody help! The boat's broken, I'm lost. I'm going to float to another state. I reached for the mic, tried not to laugh. This is Greenville River Patrol, I said calmly. Please identify yourself. She gasped. Oh my God! Is this the police? Please. I didn't mean to. I'm stuck. The boat won't turn. It wasn't broken, I knew that. She just didn't know how to operate it. When we came up behind her, it was like watching a reality show crash and burn in real time. She was spinning in lazy circles, hair whipped around, sunburn already blooming across her face, gripping the wheel like it was a ticking bomb. And then, she saw me. Her face drained. Like all the arrogance, all the huffing and puffing about HOA rules and community standards. All of that vanished in one blink. She looked like a soaked raccoon. We pulled up slowly, calm, and by the book. I didn't yell. Didn't make a scene. I spoke into the radio again. Ma'am, you are currently operating a vessel without the owner's permission, without proper safety gear, and without a license. Do you understand the seriousness of that? She froze, blinking fast. I didn't steal it. I was going to bring it back. It was just a little ride. I tilted my head. You cut the rope and took off without asking. That's not borrowing. That's grand theft with extra steps. She started sputtering. You can't do this. I'm part of the HOA. I have rights. Oh, here we go. I'm part of a river patrol with emergency authority, and you are currently in violation of several boating laws. That trumps your HOA newsletter, ma'am. By that point, she knew. She was in deep. And honestly, we were just getting started. We secured her boat, my boat, with a tow line and got ready to haul her back. She was still trying to argue, hands flailing, words stumbling over each other like she couldn't decide whether to beg or defend herself. Look, I didn't think it was a big deal, she said, eyes darting between me and my crew. I figured since it was just sitting there, maybe I could take it for a spin. I raised an eyebrow. So your logic was, if it's not locked behind bars, it's up for grabs? She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. No sound. Just that confused goldfish face. One of my guys leaned in, pretending to whisper to me, but loud enough for her to hear. She's gonna try the "it's just a misunderstanding" defense, isn't she? I didn't answer. I was already done giving her any emotional energy. I wasn't mad anymore. I was focused. Because here's the thing. That was the moment the power shifted. Up until now, she'd been the one throwing her weight around. At HOA meetings, at community gatherings, and passive-aggressive flyers about property aesthetics and communal expectations. She had control, or thought she did. But now she was the one being escorted. The one standing on stolen property. The one completely out of her depth, literally and figuratively. And I was the one driving. She sat in silence during the towback. Sat there like a soaked cat, arms crossed, trying to shrink into the corner of the boat like if she held still long enough, we'd forget she was there. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. We pulled into the dock slowly. The patrol boat drifted in first, then my boat behind it, scratched up, dented in a few places. Nothing major, thank God, but still. Not how I left it. Waiting at the dock was Officer Nunes, a local cop I knew from high school. Great guy, doesn't take crap from anyone. He stepped forward, clipboard in hand, already shaking his head. "Let me guess," he said, glancing at Marcy. "This is the genius who thought stealing a boat was a good weekend plan?" "I didn't steal it," she snapped. "I was just—" "She cut the rope," I interrupted flatly. "Tracked it with GPS, took it without permission. Doesn't have a license. No vest, no emergency gear, no authorization." Officer Nunes didn't even blink. "Yeah, that's theft." That word landed like a slap across her face. Wait, are you saying I'm under arrest?" "Not yet," Nunes said, "but you're going to the station to give a formal statement, and the owner has every right to file charges." She turned to me then, full wide-eyed desperation. "You're not really going to press charges, are you?" I looked her dead in the eye. "You cut my dock line. You risked crashing my boat. You dragged me and my crew out for a river rescue we shouldn't have had to do. You tried to justify it with HOA nonsense like you run this place." I paused. "Tell me why I shouldn't press charges." She had no answer. Just stood there, trembling in flip-flops, mascara smudged halfway to her chin. From there, things moved fast. The report was filed. The official complaint submitted. Marcy left in the back seat of Nunes's cruiser, not cuffed but definitely shaken. And I went home. No drama, no shouting, just quiet. Satisfying, peaceful quiet. But don't get me wrong, I knew it wasn't over. People like her don't take consequences well. And sure enough, the next day, I got a sweet little note in my mailbox. Typed, of course, can't have anything traceable in her handwriting. It read, "Dear neighbor, I believe there's been a misunderstanding. I didn't mean to cause any distress. Let's resolve this civilly without dragging the HOA or law enforcement into it." I didn't respond. 2 days later, the HOA president emailed me, saying Marcy had expressed concern about community harmony and hoped I would consider withdrawing the complaint in the spirit of neighborly cooperation. I didn't respond to that either. And then, she offered money. Not a lot either. Just enough to cover fuel and emotional inconvenience, as if this were some minor hiccup, like she'd knocked over a flower pot. That's when I knew she still didn't get it. It wasn't about the money. It wasn't even just about the boat. It was about respect, boundaries, consequences. So I called my lawyer, because if Marcy wanted to play games, I was more than ready to show her what the real rules looked like. Marcy thought it was over. She thought a couple of carefully worded notes, some HOA pressure, and a weak cash offer would be enough to sweep the whole thing under the rug. She probably imagined I'd cave, smile politely, and pretend it never happened, like so many people had probably done before when she threw her HOA weight around. But not this time. See, I wasn't just a guy with a boat. I was a guy who had had enough. Enough of the entitlement, enough of the manipulation, and enough of this idea that she could treat other people's property, their lives, like accessories to her personal drama. So yeah, I lawyered up. First, we filed an official theft and trespassing complaint. I'd already given my statement to Officer Nunes, but now it was formal. Evidence submitted. Photos of the cut rope, GPS tracking logs, radio recordings from the patrol boat, her voice screaming for help, and best of all, video footage from my dock cam, showing her stepping onto my boat in broad daylight, glancing around, and untying it like she had every right in the world. Her HOA badge was even dangling from her neck. We sent a courtesy copy of the case file to the HOA board. They were not amused. Within a week, I started noticing things shift around the neighborhood. Marcy wasn't strutting around anymore. No clipboard, no sunglasses, no performative frown about violations. She'd go out to check her mail in the early morning, wearing huge sunglasses like she thought people wouldn't recognize her. No one waved. No one spoke to her. The very board she had used as a weapon was now backing away. Quietly. Carefully. Like someone tiptoeing away from a fire they didn't want to be associated with. Meanwhile, my lawyer and I kept going. We pushed forward with a civil suit. Damage to private property, unauthorized use of a motorized vessel, emotional distress, and legal costs. I didn't want a settlement. I wanted it on record. I wanted her actions, and her name, attached to accountability. And when the court date finally came, oh, it was delicious. She showed up in some overly formal beige pantsuit, flanked by her own attorney, who looked like he hadn't been briefed properly until that morning. I didn't make a scene. I didn't even look her way. I let my lawyer do the talking, calm, clean, and surgical. They tried to argue it was a misunderstanding, a lapse in judgment, a case of miscommunication, but the judge wasn't having it. This was a calculated action, he said, glancing over the evidence. The defendant physically boarded a privately owned boat, removed the mooring lines, and operated the vessel without permission, documentation, or training, endangering both herself and the public. That is not a misunderstanding. That is a violation of the law. Boom. She was ordered to pay damages, not just for the minor repairs on the boat and the emergency response cost, but for legal fees and punitive fines. She was slapped with a temporary restraining order, barring her from coming within 200 feet of my dock or my property. And just like that, her little power trip hit a concrete wall. But the real fallout? That came afterward. Word spread. Not just in whispers, but full volume. Someone from the HOA must have leaked the court ruling because within days I saw neighbors exchanging screenshots on their phones. One guy even printed it out and taped it to the bulletin board in the clubhouse, right next to one of her old parking violations will not be tolerated flyers. Marcy's reputation didn't just tank, it imploded. People who used to nod and smile at her started turning their backs. One woman across the street actually moved her lawn chair when Marcy came outside, just to avoid being seen talking to her. Even her allies on the HOA board stopped returning her calls. And then, the final nail. An emergency HOA meeting was called. I wasn't invited, obviously, but I heard what happened from 3 different sources by the next morning. The board voted to remove her from her leadership position, effective immediately. They cited actions unbecoming of a representative and failure to uphold community trust. Her house went up for sale a week later. No goodbye party, no second act. Just a stale real estate sign and the sound of silence every time someone walked past. I didn't celebrate. I didn't gloat. But I did take my boat out for a quiet sunset cruise the day her moving truck pulled away. I cruised past the old bend in the river where we'd found her, lost and spinning in circles. And for the first time in a long while, I laughed. Not because I was cruel. Not because I wanted revenge. But because justice, real, honest, calm justice, had finally shown up in a place where entitlement used to run the show. And I gotta say, it looked damn good on the water. It's been a few months now since Marcy packed up and left. No tearful goodbyes, no heartfelt apologies, just a moving truck at 6 a.m. and a for sale sign that sat out front until someone new finally moved in. The neighborhood? It's quieter now, more peaceful. People wave again. Kids ride their bikes without getting flagged for violations. And honestly, it feels like things are finally back to the way they should have been. As for me, I upgraded my dock, reinforced locks, a stronger mooring system, and yeah, I added 2 extra cameras. Not because I expect someone to pull another stunt like that, but hey, I believe in being prepared. My boat's still here, polished and gleaming like always. I take it out on the river at least once a week, just to breathe, reset, and appreciate the calm. Sometimes I even pass by the spot where we found her spinning in circles. And yeah, I still laugh. Quietly, to myself. Because it's wild, isn't it? How far some people will go when they think the rules don't apply to them. But even wilder? Watching what happens when those same people finally crash into consequences they never saw coming. If there's anything I took away from all this, it's this. Entitlement is loud. But accountability? It's louder. Marcy thought she could control everything. The board, the rules, even the river. But the river doesn't care who you are, and neither does the law. So yeah, she learned. The hard way. And me? I got my boat back. I got my peace back. And I got the satisfaction of knowing I didn't stoop to her level. I just stood my ground, did the right thing, and let the facts speak louder than her excuses. Honestly, if you've ever had to deal with someone like that, someone who thinks they can push you around just because they've got a title or a clipboard, let this be your reminder. You're not powerless. Stay calm. Document everything. And when the time comes, don't be afraid to fight back the smart way. Anyway, thanks for sticking with me through this wild ride. If you enjoyed the story, or if you've got a Marcy of your own in the neighborhood, drop a comment. I'd love to hear about it. And hey, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the next one. Trust me, I've got plenty more stories to tell. See you on the next ride.